The time is now 7:01. We're going to call to order our Narragansett Town Council regular meeting. Today is May 15th, 2023. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would like to announce there were a couple members of our community that passed away in the past couple weeks. The first one is George Bagley. He was a longtime employee for the Parks and Recs Department, the maintenance, and also for Patrick Brady, who was part of the Parks and Recs Committee. He was also a landscape architect, and he was the co-designer of the casino courtyard. So let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. Next, also, I would like to announce that today is National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Day. Today, May 15th, is Peace Officer Memorial Day. On May 4th, 1963, President John F. Kennedy issued Proclamation 3537, recognizing May 15th as Peace Officer Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which it falls as Police Week. The services honor those members of law enforcement that pay the ultimate sacrifice to protect our communities. Let's have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, next we will move on to the approval of minutes. Actually, there is a motion to extend the period of time for filing the minutes of the April 3rd, 2023 regular meeting, and executive session, the April 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2023 budget work session, and the April 17th, 2023 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next up for announcements and presentations, we have the town manager's update. Mr. Tierney.
Good evening, Council President, members of the Council, and the public here and at home. One of the Council members had requested an update on the library loan status so that the facts are out there. The balance of the $1.5 million advance to the project is just 58% of it has been paid back to the town, with a balance of $625,000, with $875,000 already paid. Also, regarding the library, the Town Council, the last meeting, approved an application to the Efficient Building Fund, and our staff had worked with Bond Council extensively on it. The application was submitted on Friday, May 12th. I'd like to thank our professional staff and the assistance of Bond Council. This is a little bit more complicated. Mr. Ferraro has prepared a resolution which will go before the Council at the next meeting regarding the loan. Narragansett Historical Cemetery Committee. In support of the Rhode Island Historical Cemeteries Awareness and Preservation Weeks, April through May 2023, the committee will be sponsoring a cleanup project at Green Canyon Cemetery at the intersection of Green Canyon Driftway and Ed A. Lane on Saturday, May 20th, 2023 at 10 a.m. And as Council President Krasinski stated, this is National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Day. It honors federal, state, and local law enforcement officers who made the ultimate sacrifice in the performance of their job. Has over 21,000 names engraved on the monument in Washington, D.C. Myself and many of our colleagues have attended. I've attended over 20 times and personally knew 16 officers whose names are on there. Thank you to all our police officers and support staff. Be careful, be well, take care. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next, we'll move on to the open forum public comment part of the meeting. So remember that open forum public comment is a time for any member of the public to speak on a topic not on the meeting agenda. A sign-in sheet is available to members of the public who wish to speak during open forum public comment and located at the table in the back of the council chambers. Speakers will be called in the order as they appear on the sign-in sheet. Before open forum public comment is closed, members of the public who did not sign up will be given the chance to speak. Speaking at a meeting during open forum public comment is limited to 3 minutes. Speakers are required to state their name and address before speaking and are expected to conduct themselves in an orderly and respectful fashion. The comments of citizens accessing this portion of the meeting are neither adopted nor endorsed by the body, but heard as requested. Mr. Tierney, do we have any members signed up?
First speaker is Ella Procaccianti.
My name is Ella Procaccianti. I am a middle school student at Quest Montessori School, 1150 Boston Neck Road, Narragansett.
My name is Takahiro Uchida. I am also a student at Quest Montessori School.
We are requesting that in the new year, the town considers expansions to bicycle infrastructure in Narragansett, specifically on town roads connecting to large state roads, and reconsiders a 2018 proposal made by the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee to expand bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure on state roads, including 1A in Kingstown.
In 2018, the town created the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, set to improve the quality and quantity of bicycle and pedestrian facilities in this town. They produced a report set to add lanes to roads like 1A in Kingstown, but action has yet to be taken on the front, and that report has never made a reappearance in town council. In addition to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee's proposed changes in their report, we are asking that the town of Narragansett budget in the new term for 6.9 miles of bike lanes with appropriate facilities to accompany it.
Only 0.5 miles of the state of Rhode Island's expansive network of bike lanes and bike paths are in the town of Narragansett. Despite being home to some of the state's most scenic roadways, Narragansett lacks adequate bicycle infrastructure. We are proposing the construction of more bike lanes, as well as appropriate infrastructure to go with it.
Increasing the quantity and quality of bicycle lanes, parking, and intersection treatments, bicycle tourism would increase and contribute positively due to Narragansett's scenic nature. It has the potential to fuel the economy, but currently, lacking infrastructure restricts these roads to motor vehicle traffic.
As the weather improves, safe and comfortable transportation should be available to everyone in the community, including both those that are young, in need, or otherwise unable to afford or obtain a car.
In the smallest state, people don't need to travel very large distances. If we can create infrastructure that allows biking to be as convenient and comfortable as driving, we could see a shift in our town for the better.
Despite the promising start of this Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, none of the changes requested in their plan were ever made, and the document created then should be heavily reconsidered for reintroduction and action in the new year.
We'd also like to see, in addition to the changes that have been made and those that were promised by this committee, that the town council budgets in the following changes on town roads to support changes slated to be made by said committee.
Bike lanes are an integral part to any sort of bicycle infrastructure project, and we would like to see extensions of bike lanes, potentially with buffers, on roads such as South Ferry Road, South Pier Road, Foddering Farm Road, Conk Road, Bonnet Shore Road, Colonel John Gardner Road, and Bonnet Point Road, as these roads all connect to main thoroughways that were stated in the 2018 plan to have changes made to them, such as adding bike paths, bike lanes, and sidewalks. Bike lanes in Narragansett are virtually non-existent, void shoulder lanes, which are not wide enough and therefore not safe. We request that any existing shoulder lanes be expanded to fit the criteria of the FHWA, at least 5 feet wide if not divided from motor vehicle traffic, and that bike lanes be added to any of the aforementioned roads. According to the FHWA, bike lanes cost anywhere between $5,000 to $50,000 per mile. But if the roads simply need to be repainted, that can be done in-house. And if there is widening that needs to happen, our total road cost would be anywhere between $30,000 to $2,300,000. Or, yes, sorry, $2,300,000. And but if we added a buffer, that would cost anywhere between $72,000 to $340,000. However, most of these roads will simply need to be repainted in-house as they are very wide already.
A way to better the infrastructure in Narragansett would be to continue bike lanes through intersections. At any intersection with joint bike and motor vehicle traffic, we request that bike lanes be continued through the intersection to encourage safety and comfort for bikers. Intersections include the crossings of South Pier and Point Judith Road, Bonnet Shores and Boston Neck Road, South Ferry, Boston Neck and Bridgetown Road, and Foddering Farm and Point Judith Road. The bike lane should continue but be broken up into green stripes to allow cars to pass through when turning and acting as a guide to cyclists. Cost per intersection is around $150, and repainting can be done in-house.
Even if we instate these measures to make biking a more comfortable and safe experience in Narragansett, there still needs to be places for people to store their bikes when they are not used. We would like to see bike parking available at all parking lots in popular areas, such as beach parking in all lots, parking at the URI Bay campus, at Dominic Cristofaro Park, Town Hall, and Narragansett High School and Middle School. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, no pun intended, but we would like to see an expansion of bicycle infrastructure in Narragansett, especially on these town roads that would connect neighborhoods to places where people go to live, eat, work. It's necessary for the new generation and the next generation of people living in this town that we have safe, comfortable, and sustainable modes of transportation, whether I'm trying to get to school in Narragansett or going to the beach. It would be a great improvement in our town if you consider expanding this infrastructure and creating a more safe environment, as well as reconsidering the 2018 proposal made by the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for reintroduction in action in the new year.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks. Is that all?
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you very
Nice
much.
job.
Just go down there. Okay, next, Mr. Tierney, who's the next speaker?
Stanley Wojciechowski.
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Stan Wojciechowski, Boston Neck Road, Narragansett. I wanted to talk about quality of life. I hear that quite a bit, quality of life. I had 5 kids, and there was an elderly woman up the road who was always yelling at Mary, you know, your kids are making a lot of noise. Well, I taught my boys how to fix, 3 boys, I taught them how to fix cars, so they would spend more time fixing cars than going out with girls, you know. I figured that was more productive, wouldn't get in trouble. So when fixing cars, of course, there's mufflers, there's all kind of noise going on. And then there was yelling going on as the kids ran around through the yard. They were noisy, there's no doubt about it. And how do you solve that problem? How do you make them sit and not be noisy? Mary did a pretty good job. So I look at the government law for three person per house, 3 person per house for quality of life. Well, maybe there will be a better quality of life if you restrict how many people are in a house. So maybe the restriction should be for all in America, for all. Restriction for all. If you make a restriction, you make a restriction for all. Therefore, families, mother, father, and 1 child is 3 people. That means we shouldn't have more than 1 child per family. Otherwise, we have more than 3 people in a household making noise. And that was done by China. That doggone country, you know, that communist country, they had that 1-child law make sure, I don't know why they did it, but it was done. Government made a decision to control how many people were there. And I'm saying, you know, no discrimination. No discrimination. You know, if we're going to go for 3 persons per home, 3 human beings, three people per home, no discrimination. You want to have a limit of 3? It's 3 people for all. Liberty, justice for all. Therefore, I hope you consider that in your future vote. Are you going to go the American way? Are we going to copy the Chinese way? Or once we do get the 3-person limit, will it be morphed into not only students, but some other sector? Whether it's children, whether it's, I don't know what other sector you can find. I hope you reconsider that issue and
Thank you.
remember justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Wachakowski. Mr. Tierney, is there anyone else that has signed up? Mr. Schofield.
Good evening, everyone. Harry Schofield, 9 Atlantic Avenue. I think you all know that, and I'm speaking here on behalf of NPRA tonight, that NPRA has long supported support for the foreign-related ordinance. And we collectively are disappointed to hear, and I wasn't here personally, but the last zoning board hearing where this was prosecuted by 6 or 7 people accused that the town poorly defended the manner in which it went about enforcement of this ordinance. And, you know, it's disappointing, and I just want to register my complaint. I think that, you know, it should be obvious that people should be trained to go out and inquire as to whether people are related. I've heard that the town's no longer enforcing it, waiting for a decision on this ordinance. I hope that's not true. I don't know whether it is or not. But I think that, you know, it's a valid ordinance. It was just recently in the spring upheld by the court, and it should be vigorously enforced by the town. And there is no excuse for town officials not being properly trained to inquire as to whether people are related. And people can always lie, but most people are reticent to lie if they know there are consequences. And it's up to the town to define and enforce the consequences. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thomas Dolan.
Mr. Dolan?
Good evening. Over the last 30 or 40
Oh,
years,
could you please state your name and address?
Tom Dolan, 990 Ocean Road. Over the last 30 to 40 years, we've had this topic about rentals. It's been ongoing. You don't want to belabor the issue, but there's been committees on and on. Different committees, URI, trying to pacify us, keep the residents of Narragansett quiet, South Kingstown pushing it our way. And I'm wondering at this point, and here it is on the agenda again tonight, at what point do we say, what else can we do? Now, you know, it's been brought to your attention, you know, the obvious things that have been taken away from us, like the shell fishing at Black Point, all of these taken away. You've been shown that the affluent in the Southern Sewer Plant is worse in a 3-month span than it is in June, July, and August. I've also suggested that there's or publicly traded companies that will build beautiful dorms. I'm talking suites. It's being done throughout the country. There's Kramer Acts and other funding that can be done. So I've suggested this. My only question is, has any member of this council at least looked into it and see if our state reps or something? This in itself is going to take a couple of years to do. It won't, you know, the legislation has to be passed, has to be approved by the university. So it's been suggested. I'm guessing there's a nay or a yay, but if it hasn't been done, let's do it, because the committees and all this, the hundreds of hours that this council has wasted, or not wasted, excuse me, the hundreds and hundreds of hours over the last 30 or 40 years discussing rental and abuse of the rental zoning laws. And it's going nowhere. So take another option, try it.
Thank you.
That's the last person that signed up.
Okay. Is there anyone that is not signed up that wishes to speak? Ms. Amoroso?
Susan Amoruso, 111 West Bay Drive. I had two things I wanted to talk about. I'd like to congratulate those students for speaking up about the bike path. We certainly need more of that. I don't think it's ever been publicly acknowledged that the fundraising that we've been doing with the library, I don't think the restaurants that have participated so far have been congratulated and told how much we appreciate their support. So we've had Twin Willows, we had Trio, and we've had George's, and all three have said they were really happy to help out. So actually, I'm thanking them, and I'm also asking any other restaurants who are in town, small or large, ice cream, not ice cream, anything, coffee shops, that would like to join in dedicating a day to supporting the library with a portion of their funds. Then the other thing I'd like to talk about is I've been listening, even though I've been missing meetings, about people saying that we're cutting corners, we don't want to raise taxes, and I'm thinking, how can you not raise taxes when electric bills are going up, salaries are going up, insurance? It's just a natural thing. You can't expect not to have it. And when you do have it, one person pointed out rather passionately that we're and we're not funding things and enhancing our community. You know, the library has been a struggle, that's going forward. But when I listen to kids playing on awful soccer fields or whatever they are, it's disheartening that a community like this would not have support for their youth. And then a lot of people have been talking about the side of the school and blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell you, I had a presentation that I attended for the career technical education programs at our high school, and I was just so impressed. I was impressed with the students. I was impressed with the programs, the quality. Besides agriculture, they have filming, and I think the film team just won another award. They have robotics, things like that, and I was also impressed with the quality of the teachers. And I think if more people became informed about this, they might appreciate that there's nothing the matter with having a smaller environment for students, because especially in today's day and age, many times that has an advantage. You can offer quality education. So I think we should be thinking about supporting our future generation and instead of looking for ways to cut everything, you know, so I'd just like you to take that under consideration, and taxpayers who just want to see no increase ever. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Okay. Sir, you can come up. I can't. Please state your name and address.
My name is Don Chernick, 88 Narragansett Avenue. My concerns at the point are signage. Living on a main street in Narragansett, the main thoroughfare to the beach, actually, I think three things are really needed, and this is from my perspective, only thrown out for consideration. One is, there's not one sign saying historic district. I'm living in a historic district, but if someone who were to visit the town would come in, they have no idea that it's a historic district, or even the center of town would be the one thing. Second is, on especially the avenue, we need a no littering sign. I mean, the street gets flooded with every type of debris you can think of in the summertime. In the fall, winter, spring, it is not bad. But that's another point for consideration, so I'm sure it's just not Narragansett Avenue. But the idea of keeping that under control, there would have to be some type of communication to tell people this. And I mean, at night, things are thrown out of car windows. The other thing is the parking situation, the signage. I really think that can be looked at and maybe possibly redesigned, made larger, maybe a different color, so it would attract people's attention. When you sit there like I do in the front of my house, people park their cars, they really don't even see half of the signs, or they think the signs don't appear. If I try to read the sign from my house to across the street, I barely can read it. But I think it's something that could not be concluded overnight, but I think it's a point of interest to get those points across, get them where they're really legible and everyone can see them and know exactly what they mean. I mean, some side streets have pictures of tows. They're going to tow the cars. On Main Street, there's nothing. It just says what time, what hours, and I mean, you have to be like Clark Kent to be able to see them. And I'm not being facetious. And the number of cars that park, lock their cars, get out of their car and say thank you very much, and leave the cars. So those are the three things: a litter sign, historic sign, and to really review the signs regarding parking, so everyone, when they park their car, can see it from the beginning. Or what would be very nice, looking at the time, is at the Rotary, using the digital sign saying that parking regulations are now in effect. Many cities and towns just have freestanding signs saying resident parking only, for whatever the communication be. So I think that would really help, saying parking regulations are now in effect. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Okay. Okay, if not, let's move on to the consent agenda of the meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, so we do have a couple minutes till our public hearing starts. I'll just give it a couple minutes to go, seeing as I don't think we can get through another agenda item. Or we could try, actually. Let's see. No, we can't.
I don't think they're ready. Just take a minute.
Let's give it another minute. Thank you. Okay, the time is now 7:30. Let's move on to the public hearing part of our agenda. Up we have a motion to schedule a public hearing on the ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, specifically text revisions of Section 2.2, definitions, and a new sign, Section 7.21, student-occupied dwellings, and refer the matter to the planning board for review and recommendation. And the scheduled public hearing date proposed is August 7th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion from the council?
I'd like to,
Councilor Ferrandi?
I'd like to move that meeting up from August 7th. I think there's some statutory requirements that I believe the planning board has, I'm reading from the zoning enabling legislation, and the the planning board has up to 45 days to give a decision from the receipt of the proposal. And the town, according to this, it says the town has within 65 days of holding a public hearing. So we're looking at today's May 15th. If this hearing is held on August 7th, that's 87 days from today. So I was just wondering if, there's if the planning board can, and we might want to consider,
Yeah.
like we have in the past, and have a special meeting on a
Sure. Let
different
me,
day or earlier.
so I'm going to first reach out to our town solicitor, Mr. Davis, to see what his comments are on that.
I understand that the planning and zoning assistant solicitor is here, Steve Marsala. I would ask him to take a moment and address this matter.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Marcella?
So Mr. Frandy's correct as far as the planning board does have a statutory period of time. However, that time can be extended if you wish. The 65 days, Steve, runs from not from today, it's from the hearing date. So it's not, because obviously that would leave you, today is just a motion to schedule the hearing, not actually have the hearing. So the 65 days would then run to there. It's entirely up to you. I did receive an email from Terry regarding the scheduling portion of that. It doesn't invalidate it, but however, obviously it's your decision to schedule your meeting whenever you want to. I know we do have normal meetings, and then we have 4th of July, et cetera, within that time frame. And the planning, keep in mind, the planning board has a certain period of time to get that recommendation out to you.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily obligate you to schedule that right away. So you could keep the August 7th scheduling and mandate, obviously, the planning board get their recommendation done within the statutory period of time. Again, that would be up to them. But moving it to, I think you'd only be able to move 2 weeks back, probably. And I don't know that scheduling. So I don't even know if you're gaining 2 weeks, because the second regular planning meeting happens, our planning meeting happens tomorrow. So now we're into June's, we need proper notification, et cetera, into June. So then we're at June's meeting, and then if they had a special meeting after that, so you're into July. I don't know if you have that normal July 5th meeting, so you're then pushing, keep in mind, the time is going to be with you, with all of you, to hear that ordinance at the true, before everyone. So that's, last time it was
Hours.
7 hours. Yeah. So, the time frame, the scheduling is entirely up to you. All I'm saying is that the planning board, you're right, does have 40 days. However, that, can be extended. However, the 65 days doesn't start from today. That starts from after that. So that when you guys want to schedule that hearing is up to you. I'll be here for the 7 hours, but that you have to, that's up to Ever, or to plan the whatever other town business that you
Right.
have.
Yeah, the 45 days brings it to, as I count, June 28th. So
Exactly.
it's
So
a
the
whole
next-
month.
Yeah,
you
so
have-
that's,
you're missing
again,
the-
so that would only be one regular meeting for the planning board.
Possibly the 17th, or if we have a special meeting ever
So
after that date.
I think that there's two problems. One is that the planning board has to go through probably 2 meetings to get this done for a number of reasons. And I think what Steve is saying is that they would run out of time. And in fact, they might need an extension. So that's something that we have to consider. In addition to that, I would absolutely recommend that we do not have this on a regular town council meeting date, because we would be here till 4 o'clock in the morning. So, and I'm not good after about, 11 or so. So, We're not getting any younger around here. So the bottom line is that I think actually we should have our, our public hearing after the August, whatever it is, meeting, 5th meeting. It could be the same week, it could be, shortly thereafter, but I think it should be after. But I think the issue we have right now, if I'm not mistaken, is that the planning board has to have enough time to have at least 2 meetings, possibly with an extension for whatever happens when they have people coming talking.
Yeah, most likely in last time. I mean, it's just a 2-meeting.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
Right.
Even if that's the only thing on your agenda. It's a 2-meeting because of the public comment.
Right.
And we want to make sure everyone.
The last time we had it was one meeting, one 7-hour meeting.
For us, we only need
Right.
one,
Yeah,
but the planning board
I
might
understand
need
the planning
2.
board, maybe they need 2 meetings.
Right. Yeah, I would anticipate another 7-hour meeting, to be honest with you, but I would not want to do it on the night of a town council meeting.
Well,
I don't
it's
think
already
anybody
scheduled in
would.
there, so if you don't have it then, you have to go to July 10th, which is the on and off week, the 24th.
We can't do our meeting in July. There's no way.
Excuse me?
There's not enough time for us to do our meeting in July. Is that what you're saying?
Well, there's the other Mondays, if you had a special meeting for it.
The planning board won't be done then. That's the problem. That's how I understand it.
Does anyone else from the council, Councilor Lawler, Councilor Sisling-Bonanno, wish to comment on this? So the August 7th is, so that technically that is scheduling on our regularly scheduled meeting.
So that's,
so this
that's the date that you would pick. That's, not
Yeah.
up
I don't know.
for us.
I know it's not ideal to have it that day, but I'm willing to do it that day. If the,
So that was the day that was
the date
suggested
picked?
by staff, right? So I know Janet spoke with Mike, and that was a suggested day. And then Terry Fleming sent us an email, and we all the council, and expressed the planning board's need for additional time, and he was actually concerned that if we were to move it up even a week, Steve, that he wouldn't be able to meet getting their comments to us for that August 7th meeting. That was what Mr. Fleming
Yeah,
thought.
correct, because we're moving into late July,
Yes.
and then
Yep.
they want to make sure you guys have everything.
and I think everybody understands, like on the planning board, the urgency, or, just the fact that we're trying to move this forward. So I think that was taken into consideration. I mean, obviously, we want it sooner than later. But I don't know, like, I just, it seems like that's the earliest we can do it.
It's your call. All I'm saying is, Terry expressed, we will probably need 2 meetings. We're already having a special meeting already because we have the cannabis and all those other issues that are pending.
Right.
But, again, it's entirely up to you if you want to scheduling a late July meeting. I don't know what that extra week gains you, but
Right.
Yeah, I don't.
it's up to you.
Possibility.
I mean, I'm not talking about extending the date way out. I'm saying, like, instead of the 7th, do it on the 9th, something like that, just so that we have a full evening.
I mean, I think I would like to, if anything, I would like to keep it on our regularly scheduled meeting. And, of course, I'm the person who sets the agenda, so I can make sure that what's on that agenda time is we're not going to be having to deal with really issues that are going to take up hours of our time. So when you really have an agenda set even if it's a regular scheduled meeting, you can kind of tailor that so that you can devote most of the time to the public hearing. So that's kind of what I'm advocating for. I don't know if the rest of the council supports that or not. So does anybody want to make a motion to keep the date or change the date? It seems like that's been vetted through a lot of individuals. It might kind of rock the boat with, just what the scheduling has occurred already.
I can understand Mr. Frandy wanting to move it up, but also it's just, everyone here wants to move this forward, I think.
Sure.
But it sounds like planning board really has a lot on their plate too, so we need to make sure that they can have a thoughtful conversation, they can have a public hearing themselves. 1 week, I don't know that we want to, I personally feel 1 week is not going to be worth pushing it. Especially when Terry stated to us he really needs his time.
So you keep it at the 17th at the regularly scheduled meeting?
The 7th, yeah. So it's the suggested date is August 7th, 2023, if somebody wants to, so that is the motion to schedule it. If we all agree on that, we haven't changed what the motion is. It was already,
It's actually
so
60. It's actually 64 days after
Okay,
today's
that's
date.
okay.
but it's fine.
Doesn't
But do we
matter.
all agree? So I'm going to take the vote. Do we have
I just want to make sure that Steve Ferrandy is confident that the information about the days, are you, as far as being in line with zoning?
Yeah, I'm reading it right here, 45 days.
No, I
mean,
understand, but from what,
But-
what?
yeah,
from
Yeah,
Mr.
so-
it can be
Marsala.
extended, I
But you're
guess.
within the six, and again, the last meetings happened over a certain period of time, too. So if you don't get to it all in one night, Steve, you don't have to decide it
I realize
all
that.
in one day.
What I read was, it said, the city or town shall hold a public hearing within 65 days of the receipt of a proposal giving proper notice.
Which we don't have yet.
We don't
Say-
have,
Yeah, I
this is
get
just
it.
a schedule.
This is just scheduling, so yeah.
So that date would, that time period would kick in August 7th, after
Yeah,
August 7th.
okay.
Because on August 7th, we can have
Or
a.
the date we
Yeah,
get
have
the
a-
and
information.
Steve, just to explain, the reason for that is what the state legislature didn't want is to municipalities or people to continue. So a lot of some strategies are you continue it 8 times and then, on the 9th time, no one shows up. So the reason for that is that once it's being heard, you have a specific period of time to hear it. So the public gets their chance, gets their right to be heard.
Any other questions? I'm going to just read
Once
the
it's,
motion.
so it'll be advertised for that date, Janet? 17th?
7th.
The 7th, so it's August 7th. That's the original motion.
August 7th, okay.
It's the first Monday of the
I
month.
think we have a consensus, though, so I'm going to read the motion again, so that we're all clear on what the motion is. It is a motion to schedule a public hearing on an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, specifically text revisions of Section 2.2, definitions, and a new Section 7.21, student-occupied dwellings, and refer the matter to the Planning Board for review and recommendations. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion by Counselor Lawler, second by...
I'd like to abstain.
No, this is just for scheduling. There's no public comment. Because we don't usually have public comment about scheduling. So this is a scheduling by the town council. So motion by Counselor Lawler, second by Counselor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, you abstain. Okay, so the motion's 4 and 1 abstention. Motion passes. So next for new business from the town manager, we have a motion to adopt a resolution approving the capital improvement plan.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council?
Yes.
Counselor Kopek.
When we discussed the capital improvement plan, the last time we discussed it, one of the issues that was, I think the only one that was rejected was the library. I think there was some misunderstanding about what the library had in terms of available funding, and I wanted to see if anybody would like to reconsider that particular item. Just to remind folks, the $5.8 million has been reduced by $2.65 million. I think I got that right. Did I get that right? And what we're asking for, what the library was asking for, was a capital improvement amount of $108,000 to be used to provide windows for the children's room, to paint the building once it's completed, and to put some acoustical tiles into the building to make the sound work better, which was something that OLIS itself requested when they granted the pretty significant funding to the library. I think it makes some sense to consider this. The library also does not really have, they raised a tremendous amount of money for the library, but besides, for the new library, but besides that, the funds that they did have being held have been released to the town. So there is no additional funding available for this work. So I just think that we should consider it, given the information that we received after we made that vote, and I'd like to do that.
I agree with you, Deb.
Thanks, Susan.
Any other members from the council wishing to comment?
I have not changed my position.
Okay. Counselor Brandy. Mr. Tierney, did you have anything to comment overall on this capital budget, just for completeness sake?
Yes.
Okay.
Initially, the cuts to capital totaled from administration to the council was $1,182,000, roughly, just below that. Those were presented to the council during the budget process, and those items that were removed were not included in what was given to the council. The only other change in the capital was the one that the council is discussing now at the second public hearing, the library one. But prior to that, prior to even getting to you, we cut $1,181,790 that we had removed from the budget that was presented to the council.
But that was not from the capital budget, right?
It was taken out
From capital or from the general budget?
from the capital.
Okay. And some of those fundings were dealt with in different ways, right? That's why some of it was able to be removed.
We either kick it down the road a little bit if a project can wait.
Or we used some ARPA funds, we, got some, we found out that certain things weren't going to cost as much as they did, as we anticipated, right? All those are parts of that reduction, right?
Very few of these didn't even make it to the council. These were done in.
Oh, didn't,
Before.
so,
These are the items that.
Right.
The staff, as we sat and discussed different projects that could be either delayed or there might not be a need for it right now, or we're able to spread it out over several years to do a reduction of the budget.
Okay.
Those reductions do make it to the council.
so everything that was actually in the capital budget, though, that we did see was approved except for this library piece, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And some modifications to the.
Right.
The ARPA funding.
Right, yeah, okay. So it's not apples and oranges, it's apples and oranges, it's not apples and apples.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the council? Does anyone from the public have any comments?
Lori Kelly.
Ms. Kelly?
Lori Kelly, 25 Wildfield Farm. So I'm going to reiterate, what we spoke about last time, and thank you, Deb and Susan, for trying to put this back out there. I did rewatch the last meeting, and the cutting of the capital improvement was completely Jill saying that we had the funding, which we do not have, and Chris Wilson, who is the finance director, has said that we have already pledged the roughly $500,000 to this project to balance it. So that is a false information to say that we have the project. If you do not give us this money, the building will not be painted. The construction workers are horrified by that because the building, bare wood, parts down already, will continue to deteriorate. Those are the projects we were asking for, Deb, thank you. I also wanted to say that while Mr. Tierney is correct on the loan from the Friends, the donations that we've received has been paid down. So they have paid $875,000 off on that loan, reducing the loan. What is neglected in that discussion is that before we had the loan, we had turned over $1.1 million in cash to the town of Narragansett. So the donations in cash from our, going out for donations from the library advocates is over $2 million, plus the $500,000 in our unassigned fund balance. All of that money is pledged for this. The library project is roughly $9 million to complete it. With the state aid of $3.14 million, it brings the end of the project with all this stuff being paid down. The town will have a $9 million library for $2.65, plus a building on a corner in the pier that they could sell or use again. So there's no other project that I'm aware of. The athletic field, which was passed, was $3.25 million of taxpayer funds. You are getting a $9 million library for $2.65, and while you have the right to not do the capital improvement, I think that it will be untenable for you that 70% of these people voted twice for this project to go forward, and to let it fall down on 108,000 in something that's so visible, acoustical baffles, children's windows, and painting of the building is just sad. So I ask all 5 of you who said in print and in verbal forums that you support the library to see what that means and support the library and give us the 100,000 so we can complete this project and make Narragansett proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cherney, I just have a quick question in regards to, so the painting, so it is considered a town building. How do we, with other buildings, that's not really considered capital to paint. It's the exterior that's part of maintenance. And so I'm just trying to figure that out.
The library board, the library answer to the town council. They do not answer to me. The capital was submitted by the library to be presented to the council. But yes, frequently painting and those types of things are a form of maintenance. I don't know the extent of the work that's scheduled for at that cost. I don't know that.
Right, so correct. So I'm just trying to clarify here. I mean, we are going to have a painted building. We can work together to figure out how to make sure that that gets painted. It's not necessarily a form of like part of the capital. It's more of a maintenance program. So I'm just trying to kind of just figure that out so that we have a plan going forward, because yes, of course, we don't want paint that's coming off a building, especially when we're going to be having a new, library. And that's just my question. It's not in terms of, I know that the council's the one making the decisions, but I'm just asking from the perspective of like just the town manager maintenance, like just overseeing all our buildings, like for example, even town hall, like the exterior is, in my mind, is not considered a capital improvement.
Well, it can be. It depends on the extent of it.
Okay.
And I don't know the full extent of this one. But as we have with any other situation in town, if an issue needs to be addressed and it's urgent, we'll certainly do our best to address it.
So Jim, the paint for the library, because they act with their own budget for this, it is a maintenance. It would be under a maintenance issue. So if they were going to paint or a roof for the current library, they have money in their account that we need to then approve for them to use it. So it would be similar, correct? From the monies they have in their account, they would then pay for the library to be painted.
If I was fully aware of the scope of the work for the project, I could probably give a better answer. But no, if it's in their regular maintenance budget, that's one thing. This was submitted as a capital improvement.
But it's a brand-new building.
Yeah, but
if we build a building, I mean, when we did the major renovations to the community center, I'm sure all that was based on capital funding, right?
Most of it, yes.
Yeah, so if we did any kind of painting, it was part of that project, right? I mean, I think the other thing is that the money's the money, and, it basically comes out of the same coffer no matter what. So I'm not sure whether it's capital or not capital, doesn't matter. We need to paint the damn building, is what we need to do.
Well, they have the money that they can do that with. I mean, you just increased their budget by 300.
But that budget has been defined, just like every other budget in this town has been defined. So that's, unless people are, putting all kinds of money in there, and I don't think they are, that isn't already, identified for a purpose. No, they don't. I would disagree with that 100%.
But they can adjust the budget, Deb. Like we ask all of our department heads, they have a budget and they have to adjust it. Sometimes they get projects, sometimes they don't. But it's totally in the hands of Mrs. Kelly. She's really the only one that can move the things around. It is true, Deb.
No, it really isn't.
That's your opinion.
Well, yours is your opinion as well.
That's exactly right. And they do have a budget, and they can make modifications to their budget and to the building itself. She's just choosing not to. So,
I think that's inappropriate and not true.
It's my opinion. You have yours.
Does anyone else from the council wish to comment on this? Ms. Amoroso, sorry, I can't see.
Susan Amoruso, 111 West Bay Drive. You know, this relates to what I was talking about in open forum. Having pride in your community. We are quibbling over painting the outside of the building, providing light into an area that, you know, the architects have deemed wasn't planned on because everything is counting down to the penny. Jill, there is not all this money floating around. We can't make things appear. The library supporters are actively supporting to bring the debt down. And the 5.8 is never going to be spent because we're getting 3.1 from the state. So you do the math. This library is not going to cost, and you've often said 5.8, we don't want to go over 5.8. It's not. Simple math. So for me, to quibble over having a shoddy outside of a building shows lack of town pride. To not put in some windows. When I went to Tiverton, the light in that space is wonderful. We're modifying a building that doesn't have a lot of light. So we're looking to bring some natural light into the children's area. And it's like when you're modeling something at home, do you not say, oh, I really want to add that? So we just have to end these baffles, reduce noise. And this is not an exorbitant amount. And as far as this being maintenance and whatever capital, I think the problem is it's the amount of the, you know, request that would make it a capital. I appreciate your efforts to say maybe we can work something out with this as maintenance. But really, we have to have pride in what we're doing. And I just think to cut this is totally unwise, and it speaks volumes about the lack of support that some people have, and you are in the minority. Because, I mean, we had 2 votes on this to pass this. And it's going to be fantastic, and people are looking forward to it. So as a community and as a council, let's get behind this and stop quibbling over this and accusing people of things. And I have no idea what you said, Jill, but it was mumbled, but I guess it was inappropriate because Deb Kopak said that's not really appropriate. So I don't know. If you want to say something, say it out loud so everyone can hear it. You're on a mic. I just feel bad. I mean, I'm sorry I took up so much time, but I really think town pride should take over.
Thank you. Okay. Well, so I do agree with the noise. Like, so I've been at the library, and then it is kind of, you don't have the sound barrier and, you know, natural light's good. I mean, I do want to see this project move forward. I want to see it within budget. I also want, I want to see the building painted. So I don't want to fight over the aesthetics of it. I keep on saying it is a town building, which it's going to be, which it is. So, I mean, I know that as long as that we're not spending what the town had approved, if somebody wants to amend motion, I'm fine with supporting that.
So moved.
So
somebody
what
wanna
about
make
the other things that Sue, I agree with, that she spoke about our athletic fields and our other, I mean, the library is one very important part of our town, but we have many other important parts. And we could make the same argument for so many things. The soccer field that was here last, pickleball courts, so many things. But we have, this town has invested a great deal, and I think that they can rebudget and find a way to make this happen or fundraise. They'll keep coming back to the well and asking for more.
I think this is the final ask for me, at least. So, and I think, and again, like I've spent time there, and there is that's like noise, and I do want to see, you know, if we're investing all this money, we do want to see a good building. So again.
So are you saying you support the
yeah,
capital?
somebody-
So, and Deb, you do and I do. So there are three votes
So
to
somebody has to
support
make
that.
a motion to
Go ahead,
change
Deb.
it, to add it, and then.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Was the painting initially in the proposal of the building?
course it
In the
was.
beginning?
Of course it was.
I mean, Jim, do you know if that was, I mean, there's a lot in that proposal, but I mean,
For the
And is
original,
it-
for the original construction, I don't know that.
I would,
That's really in the weeds.
I mean, it would have been easy if it was in there that we're going to have a new
It
building
probably
and we
was,
paint it,
Steve.
but I know we're beyond it a little
There
bit.
were a
but-
lot of things that were reduced because of, the delay in getting the library started, because of the cost of materials and every other thing, because of that delay, that were either eliminated or postponed or whatever, and that's pretty common knowledge. So, I know for a fact that the windows were pulled out for the time being. The idea is that, maybe in the future you could fix it, but why would you do that when you're in the middle of doing this huge project anyway? So, yeah, painting was there. The baffles were there. The windows were there, but they had to whittle down the costs in order to meet the requirement to hit the numbers that they were required to hit. So that's what happened. And so this is just, these are three relatively, compared to the size of the cost of the work, relatively small items that would enhance the project, that would enhance the building, that would enhance, not just the beauty, but the utility of the building for our residents. And I just think we need to do it.
Could they consider a change order at this point for
Well,
the future?
it's what it will
I mean,
be,
and
I
then at
believe.
least we can discuss it and
Well, actually, I think
Okay, I'll let Councilor Cicilline Bonanno speak. She hasn't spoken
I wanted
yet.
to make a motion that the town council adopt the resolution approving the capital improvement, but to include the 108 for the library as well. I'd like that motion on the floor.
And I will second that.
Eva, I believe there are people from the public that want to speak.
Yes, we have not, so we could, yes.
Ron Catanzaro, 17 Atlantic Ave. Just a question. When you're doing an extensive renovation, how is the outside of the structure that you intend to renovate pushed aside due to cost constraints? Okay? Who's the project manager on this thing, and what advice were they giving to the people making decisions? Why would you not renovate the outside of a structure that you're spending millions of dollars on the inside for the overall integrity of the structure? It makes no sense to me. So the money for the outside of the building had to be in the project. I renovated my own house down to the studs. You think I didn't paint the outside of the house after spending all that money renovating a house? It's inconceivable that competent product management couldn't have taken care of this and at least highlighted, well, we can't take care of the outside. We have to take care of the outside, so we'll make some cuts somewhere else. Maybe the baffles was one of those places. Maybe we can go back and put the baffles in, I agree, but the outside of the building not being part of the project and the cost? We got to question the project management team.
Does anyone else from the public wish to speak on this? No. Okay, so then there was a motion to amend, so by Councilor Cicilline.
Adopt the capital improvement plan, but to include the library at the 108 as well in that capital improvement.
Okay, Councilor Kopek seconded. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
No?
No, I'm going to stick with my original, with the taxpayer.
Okay, motion
thank you.
passes. Thank you. Motion passes 3-2. Next, we have a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading the appropriation ordinance for the 2023-2024 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council?
Yeah, I was
Just
hoping we
one.
could go through it for the public.
This is the first reading. We already amended it, but if there's anyone from the public wishing to, Ms. Celeberto?
Just a summary.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. According to this budget, every penny you took in, you're spending. Is this how you run your household? Every dollar that comes in the door, you spend? We can't continue to do this. You have to have some savings. I realize we have this unrestricted reserve account, but there's really not that much money in it. It's just like the minimum by law that has to be in it. We should have quite a bit of money in this unrestricted funds account. And because we don't have any leeway as far as other projects. For example, this money to paint the outside of the building, you can't take it from this unrestricted funds account, because then you're going to reduce the amount, and then we won't be at the percentage that's mandated by law anyway. The bottom line is that spending every dollar that comes in the door is not a good way to run a town. And I really object to it. It just doesn't make any kind of fiscal sense.
Thank you. Does anyone else from the public wish to comment? Actually, Mr. Chair, do you just want to give a synopsis of it, just so that it's, anyone watching can hear what the bottom line is here?
Yes. Since the second public hearing, staff, we sat and made the changes that were approved by the council to include the decreased use of the fund balance by $413,000, almost $414,000 over the current fiscal year. We decreased the general fund budget by $170,000. The special appropriations that the council directed to reduce was a reduction of $42,680. We found grant money for contracted police services for the police department. The council voted to include that. There was an increase in a stipend for the EDC budget for $300. We increased under operating for police, and this is also contingent upon approval by the school committee, but for the compensation package for an additional SRO in our schools at $80,000. Then finance had adjusted all the compensation, corrections, health care, projected salary increases for union staff and non-union staff, and that was almost $91,000. Those are the changes that were made since the last presentation to the council during the second public hearing. And the total budget, as it is right now, is $68,763,327, which is a total increase of 2.71% over the current year. And it would increase the tax rate by 3.47%, bringing the residential rate to $9.31 and the commercial rate to $12.57. And that's using the maximum tax levy of 4%. And that was, we spoke about it at the last hearing, and Christine Wilson had a wonderful graphic to show what the issue would be if we continue down the path that we're going. The use of fund balance this year is $413,000 less than this current fiscal year, and the percentage of the overall budget for unassigned fund balance still remains in a safe zone. It's projected to be about 15% at the end of this fiscal year, and we'll still be between the 10 and the 16%, which is a good number.
Thank you for that summary.
Thank you. Anyone from the public? Anyone else wishing to comment? Or
I just have a question.
Okay,
So the rate is going to be approximately 9.31. What was it last year for residential, if you remember? Obviously, that's going to change a little bit, I would assume.
It was 9. It is 9 now. It's 9 and then 12.14 for commercial.
And that's going up to 9.31.
Correct.
Will this extra 100,000, will add a little bit to it? Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopak. Motion passes 5-0. Next up from Community Development, we have a motion to accept a grant from FEMA in the amount of $27,000 and authorize the town manager to sign all the necessary documentation after solicitor review.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public wishing to comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopak. Motion passes 5-0. Next up from the Engineering Department, we have a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm change order number 3 with E.W. Berman Inc. Incorporated for the Maury Luncheon's Memorial Library renovation project in the amount of $13,957.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Just a standard. Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next up from the Parks and Recs Department, we have a motion to approve the 2023 Narragansett beach fees as per attached fee schedule, and the fee schedule has not changed from last year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council?
Yes, one thing. I would like to see if, I'd like to move to actually take out the commercial transferable pass and have it no longer be available. Transferable passes for commercial are for hotels, Airbnbs, and the like. They're very welcome to come to our beach, and they can pay the daily admittance. I'm not quite sure why the town is giving a discount to commercial entities.
Thanks. Any comments, other comments from the council?
I agree.
Any other discussion? Anyone from the public? Ms. Celeberto.
Catherine Celeberto, 48 Earls Court. Now, I read the motion. The motion states that upon reviewing the Beach Enterprise Fund for the past 5 years, yada, yada, the audit, bottom line is, they're taking in less money than they have in the past, and yet the expenses are going up. And yet there's no recommendation to increase the beach fees. That doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever. You can do little things. There's going to be an audit, I guess, but I think we know what the outcome's going to be. The outcome is we don't have enough money in the Beach Enterprise Fund to cover an emergency. So therefore, the fees are going to have to be increased at some point, and it's better to do them incrementally than, say, next year having a huge increase in all these fees. As far as I've sent you an email, but bottom line is a few years ago when people had to pay cash for the entrance fee, they had to go to a third-party ATM and had to use their credit card. They paid that third-party ATM fee in their credit card fee because they didn't use the same bank. So they actually paid more than $12 for the admission. Now, because they can use their own credit card, they only pay the $12. And as a matter of fact, the town or the Recreation Department is paying the credit card fee. So they're netting less than $12. You know, we're just not making any kind of financial sense here, what we're doing. There are the concessions. I don't feel they're being maximized as far as the amount that you could take from them. The surf concessions, they barely cover the extra surf chair we had to add to man that chair because there are so many injuries. It's like a wash. I think all the concessions need to be examined in the amount that's being paid. No one bid for the kayak concession. That's another $32,500 that's not going to come in. And yet, no recommendation for an increase in beach fees. This is not, it's just not making any kind of sense, fiscal sense. So $32,500 right there we're not going to collect. There's the peer parking study. It referenced the number of cars that park before 8:30 every day and go to the beach for free. I did a little math. It comes out to a loss of $183,456 in entrance fees that we're not getting. You could do little things. Raise the South Pavilion locker fees, $50. The changing room fees, $50. The cabana fees, $100. You're going to bring in about 15 grand doing that. The commercial pass, I agree, it should be eliminated. If you have 98 good beach days and one person, you know, these renters, say one person in each house uses this, it comes out to about $2 per day for an entrance because a rental owner buys a commercial pass, and I can do the math for you, but just trust me. So as opposed to this person who's a renter of a summer renter would have to pay the $12. And even if it discouraged people from going to the beach, it'd have to be an 80% reduction in attendance for it to make a difference. It's all
Thank you.
simple math, believe me.
Thanks.
I think the non-residents should be charged to use the pickleball courts. And let's see here. It's bottom line that you have to raise these fees. Ms. Kershaw has stood up here numerous times to talk about how
Yeah.
everything's more
Ms.
expensive.
Ciliberto, I'm sorry, I forgot to hit the timer, but I know you're beyond the 3 minutes. But thank you, I appreciate all your comments, and
All right.
thank you. Thank you.
Can I
Okay.
ask Jim something?
So actually, let me just, Mr. Schofield, I'll ask, welcome back to the council.
Harry Schofield, 9 Atlantic. Again, I just want to rise in support of the points Catherine made. She's right on all of those points. And I want to support the suggestion that, Jill made. There's absolutely no reason people staying in hotels and inns should get a discount for the beach. It's ridiculous. Everyone knows, this beach has been the jewel of the town for more than 100 years. And it's being overused and underfunded. And people, the reasonable fees, people can afford to pay them. There's no reason for giveaways to people staying in hotels, inns, or otherwise getting discounts from paying the daily fee if they're not residents of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. So I haven't commented yet, but so I know this is the fee schedule that came back. We've discussed it previously. I think anything going to the future, we can look at it, address it for the next beach season. But for the time being, I'm supporting the beach fees as attached per the schedule, per the motion. So any other questions from the council?
With
Susan,
Jill had mentioned to eliminate the commercial pass. Are you saying you agree with that or not, or is it standing as is?
I'm fine leaving everything as is.
All right, yeah, I feel like that too. I guess I was trying to figure out what the commercial pass, I know it brings in revenue, it's $200. I don't know a lot about it, but I was wondering if the director could just elaborate on that, why we have done that.
Ms. Kershaw.
Before we eliminate it, I want to make sure it's the right thing by the town.
For the record, we've already started selling them alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think
so
it's really late in the game to make any changes, and I know I
okay.
respect everyone's opinions, and we do have new members on the rec advisory board, and there is, next year we can have discussions on any changes, but this has been, we've had work sessions, we've already discussed this. This is like, in the final hour here, and then just to make all these changes, which the beach season has already technically started.
Completely agree, so I don't even need comment at this point. If we're not going to change it as is, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so this, again, let me read the motion again. It's a motion to approve the 2023 Narragansett beach fees as per attached fee schedule.
Before we do that, can I
All
just
right,
say?
Councilor Lawler.
The rec board had made the recommendation to increase the fees. It was a consensus, it wasn't a vote taken. I know, Susan, you were on that rec board at that time. There was not a vote, but there was a consensus taken, and they did wish to increase the fees. And the current rec board right now is working with the finance director to be able to take a look at all of the fees, Ms. Alberto, that you spoke about for next year. As the director has told us, it's too late at this period of time. The folders, everything's been printed. People are starting to take it in. But I agree with you. I think that next year we need to take a look at all of these things and increase it to the appropriate amount. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments, final comments? I'm going to take the vote, if not.
So everything's staying the same?
Yes. So in our packet, we have a motion to approve the 2023 Narragansett beach fees as per attached fee schedule, which is the same as last year. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, abstain. We have 4 and 1 abstention. So we motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno. Motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. Thank you. Next up, we have a motion from the Parks and Recs Department to approve the sponsorship agreement with Citizens Bank as per attached for the 2023 Rhode Island Philharmonic concert sponsorship.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
you, citizens.
Anyone from the public wishing to comment? It's a great event, all a great event. Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motioned by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next up from the Fire Department, we have a motion to approve the installation services for the Motorola mobile and base radios and repeaters for the Fire Public Safety Building from Cybercom Incorporated in the amount of $10,166.43.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have a motion to accept a grant modification to the Rhode Island Department of Health's Center for Emergency Medical Services Mobile Integrated Healthcare / Community Paramedicine. It's MIH/CP program awarded to the Narragansett Fire Department in the amount of $50,000.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? Mr. Terry, do you need to comment on this or no? You're good. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next up from the town council, we have a motion to receive and accept the advisory memo from the Affordable Housing Trust Collaborative.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. This is just coming from the Affordable Housing Trust Collaborative. I don't know if we don't have the chair's not here, right? Nick's not here. Okay. So basically, this is just a motion to receive and accept the advisory memo. There's been they did a lot of work looking for areas of that, and they're just keeping the council abreast of any information that they've discovered. So basically, it is just finding lots and areas for affordable housing. There were 7 potential lots, both town and privately owned, that were identified. And it's further investigating on potential use of these lots for affordable housing units. So it is just, again, it is just an update. Thank you to the chair, Mr. Edwards, for updating the council on this, and he will keep the council abreast of any information as warranted. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Eva, could I request
sorry.
that we get, if there's any information that came in with that housing study, could you pass it to the council at this point? I mean, I know they noted some statistics in there. I'm assuming it comes from some sort of.
Sure, I think they have the minutes posted too,
Yeah, I
so
was
we
gonna
can
say,
forward you the minutes. Okay, so motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. And that was just, the next up on the agenda is a motion to cancel the July 3rd, 2023 regular town council meeting. July 4th falls on a Tuesday, so do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, so we do have, so as mentioned, July 4th falls on a Tuesday. We have a regular town meeting scheduled on Monday, July 3rd. I know a lot of people are usually out of town taking that, it's a popular vacation week. Just for the opportunity for town staff who are required to attend meetings to enjoy a long weekend, to include Monday, and or have the evening off to enjoy with family and friends. Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next up from the town council, we have a motion to direct the town manager and staff to create an assessment survey for seniors to identify areas where Narragansett can determine what needs are being met, what the town can consider to budget for those needs not being met for our senior community.
So moved.
Second? Oh, Susan can have that one.
Okay. Okay, this one comes from Councilor Kopek. Would you like to just introduce this one?
Yes, we had a lot of discussion about the senior centers in Narragansett and South Kingstown, and one of the things that I feel we really need to have is an understanding of what it is that the seniors, and I count myself among them, are looking for from the town in terms of support and ensure that we are providing them with what they need, not just what we want them to need. So I think that's really important. There are a number of already created surveys that we could either use or adapt for our purpose, and I think it would be really valuable to find this information out from seniors and, I don't know that we have to send it out, but we do have to make them aware of the fact that it exists so they can take part. And from that, do an analysis to ensure that what we are doing, either here in Narragansett or in conjunction with South Kingstown, to meet those needs. And I feel like we have not done that, and it's really important to give people or to help people obtain the things that they need as opposed to just have programs. I mean, they should be useful, so.
I think it's a great idea, and I just want to give credit to Michelle, because right before
Absolutely.
COVID, we were talking about that at the senior advisory, and we were working towards that. So glad to hear it's on the agenda. I'm sure it will be finished.
Yeah, I think COVID had a really deleterious effect on what we were doing for seniors because of the nature of COVID. So we need to get back on track.
Councilor Lawler, do you have?
I think it's a great idea, but I also think it might be a great idea to hand it over to the committee that Steve is on for Narragansett, the Narragansett South Kingstown Senior Advisory Committee. We're going to be talking about appointing 2 individuals tonight, and it sounds like this really important project might be right to give them to start off their new meeting would be a perfect assignment for them. They also, because they will be dealing with South Kingstown as well as Narragansett, because we do have a program with South Kingstown, that'll be the best way to get both of the towns' feedback. I think it's a great idea, and I would suggest that we give it right to the Narragansett South Kingstown Senior Advisory Committee.
Any other comments from the council? Councilor Frandy?
Deb, the survey that you have in here, is that the one that you're looking at?
It's just an example. But I also have a little bit of a concern, not a big concern, but a little bit of concern about that, because we might find different things from South Kingstown and Narragansett, and if they get sort of folded in together, we're here for Narragansett primarily, but I'm a little bit concerned about that. The other thing is that your committee meets quarterly, and so that may take a long time to get all this done, and we have staff that can that probably has some experience too, and can possibly work on this a little bit more swiftly than that.
We are meeting next month, so I mean,
Good.
it's in June, so I mean, maybe I could just take it there, and it might not be, I think it's a good idea. I mean, we're really asking for the choices that they want, or they're looking for, or what they would need, so.
Yeah, but you have to have, to put this survey together, there's methodologies for doing surveys and identifying people who can complete them and how you get your information. So I don't know, certainly some of the members of the advisory committee would have that experience. I don't know how many do or how that would work, so.
Maybe we could collaborate with South Kingston and the rec boards and whatnot and try to come up with something to get some more information from our seniors.
Well, okay, but if it doesn't work out, I would certainly bring it back here, so we don't want to let it just not get done.
Are you amenable to?
I'm not.
I think it just needs to get done, right?
It just needs to get done,
I know
right.
that was your intent.
Just
so
needs to get
whoever
done.
gets it done, gets it done. We just
Right.
need it done. So,
I'm fine with
so
that.
we've tasked we'll task the committee. So just would somebody like
That's
to make
fine.
a motion to amend it? We would just need to amend it to direct or refer it, I don't know.
Yeah, we refer to Narragansett South Kingstown Senior Advisory Committee.
Okay, Councilor Lawler's making do I have a second? So it would be a motion to direct the Narragansett South Kingstown Senior Advisory Committee and to create an assessment survey for seniors to identify areas where Narragansett can determine what needs are being met, what the town can consider to budget for those needs not being met for our senior community.
I can second that.
Okay, so that was Councilor Lawler and Councilor Cicely Bono. Okay,
Council President?
yes.
The motion should be to refer it to them.
Did I say direct?
Yes.
Oh, I sorry. Okay, let me read it again so it's clear. So this is a motion to refer the Narragansett South Kingstown Senior Advisory Committee to create an assessment survey for seniors to identify areas where Narragansett can determine what needs are being met, what the town can consider to budget for those needs not being met for our senior community. And that was motioned by Councilor Lawler and seconded by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno. Motion passes 5-0. Next up is a motion to adopt a resolution endorsing state enabling legislation for short-term rentals.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. This one is coming from Councilor Ferrandi and myself, so I'll let you take this one, Councilor Ferrandi.
Okay, thank you, Eva. As everyone's aware of, the short-term rental issue is really not just for communities, coastal communities, but it's really sucking up a lot of our housing all over the state. So much so that the state of Rhode Island is actually finally taking this up, and they have some pretty good ideas. So this is, I've been attending, I think I went to 4 or 5 different nights where these short-term rental ordinances, and these are basic ordinances. You know, there's a Senate bill and a House bill. They're similar, if not exact. One authorizes establish rules and regulations to issue licenses for short-term rentals. There's other ones that mention includes non-owner occupied residential properties as short-term rentals to be classified as Class 2 properties. Enables municipalities to impose a 2% community impact fee on some short-term rentals. So, and even the people up in Providence, they're fighting the same thing. The housing up there is being all taken up by a lot of students and outside investors. So this is just a resolution kind of giving them some support for actually taking this up and maybe giving some different rules. And I know we're going to be doing our short-term rental shortly. We have some proposals in. And I think it's a good idea just to kind of give them some support. So it's just a resolution supporting this.
Thank you. Yeah, so again, it's just really, it's supporting that legislation, supporting it, and, making sure that, we have our name sent over saying that we support all these new, these laws that are being presented in committees. And yes, Councilor Ferrandi has attended the State House and been actually at these hearings. So he's very passionate about this, as we know. So this is just basically to adopt a resolution endorsing that state enabling legislation for the short-term rentals. Does anyone from the council have any comments?
Let me state, these are also just enabling legislations to give the towns some different tools to use.
And it's also a resolution that many of the municipalities are also submitting or passing or adopting. Any other council? Anyone from the public? Sorry, Mr. I can't see that far. Yeah, yes. I'm sorry. Okay. Right now. I'm on the other legislation. So I'll come back to that after we finish this. I'll let you speak. I'm sorry. Yes, I did forget to ask about any public comment, so I apologize. I'll get back to this as soon as we're finished with this agenda item. Ms. Celeberto?
Catherine Celeberto, 48 Earls Court. I don't think we should be hitching our star to anything the General Assembly is doing. They haven't even passed these bills yet. They could amend them 100 different ways, and you want to hook on to what they do. These haven't been passed yet. We don't know what these are going to evolve into. Why would we be joining with them? Why don't we just let them do whatever they do, and then we can see at the end if any of it applies to us, and we can use anything that does, and then just do what's appropriate for this town. Again, no bills have been passed yet, and they could be amended many different ways. We don't want to say we support what they're doing when we don't even know what the amendments could be. Thank you.
Is anyone else wishing to comment on this agenda item? Okay. No comments being, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Counselor Lawler, second by Counselor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. I'm just going to go back to public comment for the motion to direct, to actually refer to the Narragansett South Kingstown Senior Advisory Committee. So I'm sorry. Please state your name and address.
Don Chernick, 88 Narragansett Avenue, Narragansett. Realizing I'm a senior, 76 years of age, and having some knowledge about the senior program, I hope my comments are constructive. They're not meant to be critical, but the real thought of it is, you can't just administer an assessment survey and draw answers. One is, I would ask the basic question, how many seniors reside in the town of Narragansett? From a utilization point of view, how many seniors utilize the center? That leaves a good difference of numbers that do not use that center. And if you're going to administer a survey, how do you outreach to the voiceless? That is a key component for that operation. It's a small satellite program. It tries its very best to make the needs of seniors met. And from an annual basis, those needs have to be looked at. For 20 years, no one truly looks at total need. They look at immediate need, those in attendance. The ones that don't attend the center are really the ones you want to outreach to because they are truly in need. If I asked each of you, what is the definition of a senior? What is the age of a senior in the town of Narragansett? It used to be 55. I think recently it was changed to 65 because of the meals program. But I think what I really want to say is it's a very important program. It has to be looked at in totality. Staffing, advisory, input of programs, because you've got to remember also that facility is a rental hall. So whatever programs you do want to sponsor for a senior might be prohibited because it's been scheduled for a rental. Weekend programs, so important to seniors, those that live alone, that want to get together and enjoy a night at the center, whether it be dancing, listening to music, watching television. It's just the camaraderie of getting together. At one time, I proposed a program for the beach. The beach had never been used for seniors. And finally, it was done. The attendance was not that great, but those that wanted to go to the beach were finally able to get the beach with the help of the van. People were able to go here and there. My long-range hope for this town is to have a separate department on aging, specifically for goals and objectives for seniors with a good, how would you say it, a good, responsible staffing pattern to meet the needs of seniors and not be a subsidiary of recreation. But my thought is, again, lastly, you can't administer an assessment survey if you can't outreach total senior population.
Great, thank you. Those are great comments. Thank you. And Councilor Ferrandi, I'm sure you heard all those comments, so he'll make sure.
I did.
Thank you.
Wrote some down.
Okay, anyone else? I know I missed public comment for that agenda item. Does anyone else wish to comment on that? Okay, thank you. All right, so next up from the Town Council is a motion to direct the town manager to implement the planning board recommendations for parking in the town of Narragansett effective January 1st, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so this, so I'm just going to go over this agenda item. I put this forth. So there've been already 2 studies done. I think parking in the summer, it's one of, I always hear that as one of the top complaints. Obviously, we have like our list of issues that a lot of residents, want to address with us, and parking is one of them. So this comprised 2 studies. So we've already had 2 studies done on parking. And so there was one done in 2011 And that was, really nothing's really happened with that parking study. So the last council, which I was also a part of, there was a recommendation, a motion to have another study done, which I didn't support. I thought we could use the 2011 because really not much had changed. So 2022, we received another study, and that was completed. So we also had that second study was approved. And on May 2nd, 2022, there was a motion to schedule a work session. And that work session, we actually held that on June 13th, 2022. So there were, so at that work session, we referred it to the planning board. So the planning board spent a lot of time and effort on this parking study and making recommendations. And it was specifically intended to be discussed and implemented for this coming season, our summer season, which, actually starts today, May 15th through September 15th. So I know our town manager had sent the completed recommendations to the council for, to put, to move it forward. We just need to stop kicking the can down the road, and we need to act on the recommendations of the planning board and just the past recommendations. So that's why I put it on. I know it's, it is the 15th today. We have started our summer season. So I just brought this forward for discussion and consideration. It would be an ordinance change. So I'm opening it up to, I do support a lot of these recommendations that the planning board, there was a lot of thought that went into these because the council did send back some of the, recommendations and just for the planning board to comment and give feedback. And there was a lot of thought that went into these. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to any council members wishing to speak at this point. Is there anyone wishing to speak right now? Councilor Cicilline Bonanno.
So I actually sponsored the parking study with the last council. And I did talk to the chair of the planning board today just to talk about this motion. And I think it would be a good suggestion. We did meet at the beginning, but now that the recommendations are fully vetted out, just to understand them. There's a lot, the intent of the study was to free up the parking on the main streets and Ocean Road and Boone Street. And I think we all agree that we have to do some kind of time parking that they presented. The question is it 2 hours, is it 3 hours? And I think some of those side streets like Condon, Central, I'm not clear on all the changes on those. So I think it would be really important to get this right. Yes, they've met on it and they've talked about it at length, but they haven't really met with us with their final findings. So I like some of the stuff, but if we're going to vote for it tonight, then I think we should go by line with Mike, because there's a lot of side streets that are going to be impacted that we want to make sure we understand for the residents and for the visitors coming into town. So this, as much as I'm happy it's here, we just want to make sure it's right. And I don't think, I think it would be helpful to sit with the planning board and go through. They had maps and they went through specifically each street. And I would imagine everybody sitting here tonight does not understand every change on every street other than those main streets, and agreeing that we want to lighten the load so everybody's not locking down the town. So if we're going to vote on it, I think we have to really understand the magnitude of the entire study. And that was the recommendation too.
Thanks. So we did, I thought, to me, it was very clear, the January 12th, 2023, we did get the information back, and it was the peer parking study and the recommendations, and I thought they were very specific and very clear. So I don't know if you've looked at those, but yeah, so that's why I'm asking the other council members to have input, because they were clear to me. Councilor Lawler, do you have any feedback?
So you're referring to the summary report from the planning board that Terry Fleming provided us, that he went street by street? Yes. It is very specific, Susan. What do you have?
Well, one of the things is the 2-hour time parking. I think we can agree, maybe time parking, but and again, it's a recommendation which we can work within. It doesn't mean we have to land on every single recommendation. It's a working document, right? So is 2 hours the right time, or is 3 hours? For instance, Trio, Coast Guard House, they all have employees that park too. So I mean, is the 2-hour thing, people going to have to run out and move their car?
It's three,
Three.
is the recommendation.
It says 2.
The recommendation is 3.
Oh, okay. Okay, I agree with 3, but I just want to make sure. No, I have it right in front of me. I'm all set. I just want to make sure that we're all in agreement on all these changes. And again, I was the one that initiated it because his parking has been a huge problem all over the town, but specifically Boone Street and on Ocean Road. So 2-hour time parking. So what about Condon? Maybe if Mike could just kind of elaborate on some of those.
They're all here. So what part would you like to elaborate on?
So,
On that
I
one
have-
specifically, one of the things that it says, and it is a little bit
says a
confusing to
3-hour
me.
time parking
If you look on, I think it's, I don't know what page it is, 24 or 23. It's B, secondary streets. All of the following streets are suggested to be regulated with a combination of time limit parking and resident parking permits. To clarify, the board supports an allowance for residents along these streets to receive parking permits, which would exempt these residents from the time limits. All others without permits would be required to observe the posted time limits. But there was some a little bit of decision-making on our part for some of these things as well. Do we want to do that? Do we want to do it a different
Yeah.
way? And I think that's
Or are we gonna take
a
it
little
all?
bit of a concern. And then there was also the issue after that, and C, the other areas of concern. I think we have to talk about that a little bit, because the first one, it talks about Gibson Avenue, and I was at the meeting, the planning board meeting, when they were discussing this, and this came up as a pretty important issue. The board is concerned that this road could become attractive for transient parking and suggests the town council suggests, they don't, I mean, it's a suggestion. The town council consider implementing some form of regulation specifically to protect the green from being overused for vehicle parking. So, I mean, I think there's some decisions that we have to make. So we'd have to kind of go through these, item by item tonight, I would say, if we were going to do that. And there's several others that are similar to that.
That's how I feel too. But.
Yeah, there's the issue of, the trolley system idea, whether we can, and I mean, none of this, I think their recommendation for implementation was January 2024, so it wouldn't even happen for this summer, if I remember that I read that correctly. Oh, then they say
so
for
they
the
wouldn't
upcoming
be
summer.
implemented till the following season?
No, so this was actually, the 2024 date was just proposed right now. So I'm sorry. So yeah, so that was, but I think the intent was to have,
But it's not decided.
Theirs was the upcoming, this season, but I don't know.
Their intent was for this season.
Yeah, we're in this season now, so that's.
Yeah.
a
Just
little
like the
hard to
beach
do.
days.
Council Franny, I don't think you've got, make sure you have the opportunity to comment.
The parking can be very, very difficult. Be careful what you ask for. But I think that pretty comprehensive study of what's there. I did attend a few of the meetings when it first started and read some of the background from the first one. Obviously, the seawall, I guess, would be the most important one. That has a 3-hour time limit. So I guess the theory is, kind of move them in and out a little faster.
So, but there's, but there's complications in that one. The complication being employees for for whatever, the restaurants, et cetera, is an issue. I mean, if we want to just go forward, we can, but I think it's going to be a little sloppy if we don't think these
Well, I
through.
agree, but so the issue here is with the employees for parking, I think we had discussed previously, and this is kind of something that's come up with a lot of the local restaurants as well, is being able to have, parking at the middle school or somewhere else. And I brought this up the last council, and our town manager did look into that. And I'm just going to refer to you quickly, Mr. Tierney, about when we had discussed, like, when businesses, the concern is, the limited parking where the employees park on the seawall. But there's an opportunity for the businesses, I think they were willing, and I think, when we were discussing it, they were willing to provide some kind of shuttle service from, like parking specifically at one of our, the town properties, like the middle school, whatever was close, and having like a shuttle for employees, because we do need the parking during the summer for, for tourists and for patrons of restaurants and And we also need to have that parking freed up because that seawall parking, a lot of it is taken up for individuals who park there all day for the beach. So again, this was a unanimous recommendation by the planning board. I'm gonna say that. That's kind of where I'm coming from. But Mr. Tierney, would you just like to comment on like other options that we could look into rolling out for, businesses?
I did meet with some of the businesses back at that time, and they were trying to bond together. We had suggested that they could use a parking lot off-site, but the transportation would have to be something else. And they were trying to see if there was an interest of the businesses sharing that. I was subsequently informed that there weren't enough people interested in doing it at the time.
Yeah, I think it was late in the game, and it was just kind of like last minute. So, so that's again.
But I guess, if you think about that, though, if we do have a time limit, that might change the way they think, I think somebody in here made the comment that, they're usually an employee has like at least a 6-hour shift. And if he has a 3-hour, he'd have to go out and move his car.
Right. So if you have all those employees parking, there's going to be no parking for patrons. Right. So that was the issue too. They've realized that too. I think the restaurants in the Pier area realize that all that parking is being taken up by employees, and so they're not able to have patrons be able to park there and be there for for their businesses. So anyway, I'm just going to go to the public right now. So Ms. Siliberto.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. First, we are not responsible to provide parking for employees. You people should have worked in Providence Superior Court when I first started working there. The judges didn't even have parking. When I tell you the tickets we used to rack up, you can't even imagine, okay? We'd move our car 100 times and all that stuff. Nobody, was not even on anybody's agenda. We didn't think somebody had to, supply parking for us. But anyway, the bottom line is there is a pass that businesses can buy for their employees. And it would exempt them from all these time limits. And some businesses do buy this pass. But, they don't want to spend $100, I guess, a lot of them. But that's not our problem, okay? So, again, there is a way for employees to park on these streets and be exempted from these time limits. As far as the recommendations, I think they're pretty clear. They name the streets. They say what the time limit should be, 3 hours, what street to what street. I do think, though, the one on Boone Street should go from Central to South Pier Road because people, park for the beach from Central to South Pier Road, and you need a 3-hour limit that entire stretch so that there would be, people will move so the 3 restaurants there can, there'll be patron parking, although PJ's has a parking lot, and so does Bike Stop. It's just Crazy Burger who never says a word. He never complains about anything. So anyway, I just think it's very clear, especially when it comes to the issue of time parking. And there really isn't any reason why we shouldn't just move forward on this. If you move forward on nothing else, move forward on this. And again, the businesses can buy a parking pass for their employees, which will exempt them from the 3-hour limit. And, they can switch them out, too. They don't have to buy a pass for every single employee. They can leave it in the store, and they pick it up and stick it in the window. So I don't think it's going to cost them that much money in the long run. But really, every summer is just ridiculous, the parking situation. And I really want to know who's going to enforce these regulations, because Ocean Road, is our police department going to ticket on Ocean Road? That's what I want to know. And also, that's kind of important, that these tickets are going to go out. Otherwise, really no point in having 3-hour parking. I would also like to see the violations, the cost raised. But I think that's an ordinance change, correct? If you were to raise the violation, the parking violation fee, okay, so that would be another time. But in the meantime, you can just order up some signs, and DPW can start nailing them on the poles and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schofield?
Harry Schofield, again, 9 Atlantic. So I mostly agree with all of that. I want to comment on this on behalf of NPRA. NPRA has long supported these parking restrictions and regulations. Ever mentioned the 2 studies separated by 10 years. This is really starting to sound like the Bureau of the Bureau, the worst elements of bureaucracy. I read the last parking study, attended the planning board hearings. We sent the planning board a lengthy memo on behalf of NPRA, recommending they implement the recommendations of the study. We suggested that night that it'd be 2 hours instead of 3 hours. Every tourist town in the country that has this time parking has 2 hours, and I've been in dozens and dozens of them. But if the trade-off is we need 3 hours, I will say that I'm pleased to see, I think they recommended all of Ocean Road and not just half, which didn't make any sense. But implement them. Just implement them. Get it done. Jeez. And the thought that we need to worry about the employees of restaurants is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. That is not what the time parking is for. It's for residents and for visitors who can access these places. You have people on Ocean Road that park there all day. So this is not hard. I mean, you've got a few streets, Ocean Road, Caswell, Boone Street. And if something's not working out so well, change it. Don't just sit here for years debating it. So please do it. NPRA recommends it. It was a well-done study. Implement the recommendations as the planning board has recommended. Again, on a personal basis, I think, 2 hours is what every other town does. But if we need to start with 3, start with 3. But just do it. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to comment? Okay. So I guess we could, there's several things we can do. We can just kick the can further. That's fine. We can actually give a date of when we want to discuss this again. We could also just make the motion to direct for this to be implemented without an effective date, seeing as how perhaps some of these could be implemented sooner than later. Some of these, maybe it may be a bigger challenge, but just looking at the recommendations, I think some of these could be done sooner than later, and at least, just start the process, that we really should have addressed in 2011. That's already 13 years ago, or whatever we're 12 or whatever we're coming on right now. So I think it's important for this council to address this parking issue and just do something. So again, if somebody wants to make a motion to change it, to table it, to continue it, to modify the language, again, it seems like it's going to be continual discussion anyway. So those are the options. We can keep it with that date as is. We can take out the date. We can actually continue it to the next meeting. We can table it to the next season. But again, I put this on the agenda because there has been so much work that has been going into this, and there continues to be issues and comments and complaints about parking, and there's going to be issues again this summer, and then. In an effort to help with that and help mitigate that, I think it was important to, to put it on here because I've been waiting for this to show up, and I was, it's been sent to the council members, and since it wasn't being put on by the council sponsor who sponsored the last study, I just wanted to make sure it was on here and addressed, because I really thank the planning board for really doing their due diligence and being very thoughtful about these recommendations. So with that, I leave it up to the council.
Make a motion to adopt as is.
I would second that, but I would make one change. I don't see why we want to wait till January. This is not an ordinance change, correct, Jim? It is an ordinance change? For just a timing?
For changing it on the streets, that's a change in the ordinance. That's a change in the parking ordinance.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask one question?
Can I just, so can we, so it's a change in the ordinance, but but by changing it till January, do we, what do you recommend? If we want to say that we want to do it sooner than January?
You can put it on there to do. I'm just thinking that the parking passes have mostly already been given out, so it's too late to make any changes in that.
What
But
was
as far as
the parking passes you're referring to are?
For the residents in the areas.
Okay.
They began today. They went into effect today, and 95% of them have already been distributed.
Okay.
So, but you can make changes in the parking ordinances. You could make changes in the fines, but that requires reprinting of all of the parking tickets. That we have, that there's a cost to that.
Okay, I was just interested in I am fine with what the recommendations are from the planning board, but I was hoping that we'd be able to implement it much sooner than January.
So, you can direct the staff to put ordinance amendment before the council, and it'd have to go back for the council for approval. You would have to have 2 readings on it.
2 readings. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So there couldn't be anything adopted tonight on that. Adopted
Right.
is not the, right.
Right, but just to direct, to implement, it's like a process. It's a process. We know we're going to get stuff coming back. We know that we're going to have to do ordinance changes. Just having that date, so, even having it on or before, effective on or before January 1st, 2024, but at least start the ball rolling so that there's whatever needs to get done is in process of getting done.
So, 2 things. One, I have a question. Anything that happens on Ocean Road, do we not have to speak to the state of Rhode Island because it's their road?
We do, and depending upon whatever signage we have to, that we
I've
would
already
be
had that conversation.
intending on using, we'd have to
Right,
contact CRMC as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I did speak to the town manager about that, because we do know that is a state road, they would be supportive, and in the past they have been. So it's not an absolute no. Like basically,
Oh, yeah.
and so those are the questions that I asked before this meeting. So that those conversations have happened in the past. The road is in Narragansett, and they're supportive of what,
Yes.
right? Would you like to confirm that, Mr. Tierney?
In the past, they were supportive of it, just never went this far.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
However, if CRMC is involved, you might need to go to January 1st, 2024.
Yeah,
just because
right.
of how
So again, we have this
Yeah.
date, we can say on or before January. If it's changed to that, at least, it gets the ball rolling.
So-
And some of these, may come, may not, and, or just leave an indefinite date, but at least start working on something.
So I had one other comment, and that is that I don't have a big problem going forward with the recommendations and the way that we have this stated, because it's going to take some time to do it anyway. But I do think we need to go back and look at the areas of concern, because there's a lot of parts to those that do need to have some attention that's a little bit different from the recommendations for, moving forward. So I just think we need to do that.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, so parks?
No, the parts.
Oh, parts. I heard
that-
parks. I'm sorry.
no,
I
parts,
didn't hear
where
it.
it says other areas of concern, which
Right.
actually includes some parks, but
Yep.
the fact is that each of those has, sort of a lot of parts to them, I think was what I actually said. And we need to go back and look at them and, decide what, if anything, we want to do about them, just to make sure that we have clarity on that. But that shouldn't necessarily hold up the stuff that comes before that.
Right, it's all going to come back. So, again, was there a motion on the table, amendment? I don't.
My
I'm
motion
losing
was
track.
to pass as is, or to recommend as is at this point.
Okay.
Okay, but, so the other areas of concern are not recommendations, so I would agree with you as far as the recommendations are concerned.
Yeah, so the recommendations, yeah, and the others is like up for conversation, so, okay. Is that fine with you?
Yep. Do you want to change that to on or before?
I'm not making the motion.
What's the honor before, was it January 15th?
So
What is it, January
currently it
1st,
reads
15th?
effective January 1st, 2024. There were some concerns with, like, being able to start it earlier in the season. So if it's on or before, if there's anything that's feasible to implement earlier, that's not going to take till January 1st. But if we leave it as is, then nothing has to be done up until January 1st, 2024. I'm just throwing that out there. It can be as is, it can be on or
We're gonna wait a whole
before.
nother year if we don't do anything.
Correct, if it's the way it's written.
So why is it 24? Oh, that's what the planning board came up with? That it's,
No, that's just because there needs to be ordinance changes. But what I'm saying is if somebody wants to make a motion for on or before, we could potentially get some of this stuff done sooner.
Yeah, so to change it to make it on or before.
Joe made a
Okay,
motion.
so who's, Councilor
I
Lawler,
see.
did you make that, or? Is there a second to that? I think it was Jill.
Joe did.
And
I
then is
believe I
there-
made the motion. Did Deb second the motion, I believe?
There was no second for Steve's accepting as is, so there was a motion to amend it by Councilor Lawler to amend the language effective on or before January 1st, 2024. That was Councilor Lawler who made that amendment. Do I have a second? Okay, so there's a second by Councilor Kopak. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, so motion by Councilor Lawler. Actually, I'm going to read the motion again. So the motion was to direct the town manager to implement the planning board recommendations for parking in the town of Narragansett on or before January 1st, 2024. The motion was made by Councilor Lawler. It was seconded by Councilor Kopak. Motion passed four with one abstention. Now going back, I have to go back to the original motion. Motion correct. Ms. Tara, do I have to go back to the original motion? Motion as amended?
Right, there was an amendment to amend the effective date on or before.
Yep.
And now you go back to the main motion.
Yeah, so going back to the main motion as amended. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
All right, motion passes.
I didn't vote yet because I'm still a little bit, I'm stuck on, item C and the things that we need to maybe take a look at in the future. That doesn't prevent us from doing that, right?
Right,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. Are you good, Ms. Terrell?
Do you want to, since you're amending it to remove the date, to change the date to on or before, do you want to specifically state Councilor Kopek's concerns about other areas of concern?
I mean, I think to me, it's in there. It's just concerns. It's
just concerns. It's not-
Well, I don't want them to get lost, though.
It's not going to get lost, so.
Okay. I'll hold you to that.
Okay, I think it's fine as is. Okay. All right. Okay, so next up from the town clerk's office, we have a motion to approve a mobile food establishment license application for Amino LLC doing business as A Mono Pizza and Gelato, subject to state and local regulations.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion from the council?
I actually do, and I thank you, Janet, for including the rules and regulations in for the food trucks. One thing that I noted is there is an awful lot of places that they're not allowed to park. So they can park for 4 hours, but they can't park in Boston Neck Road, Point Judith Road, Ocean Road, Birdside Avenue, Galilee Escapeway, Sprague Park, Beach Street, the entire length, Memorial Square, the entire length, Matheson from Court Street to Kingstown Road, and any other public highway or street where parking is prohibited on both sides of the public highway or street. They also cannot park at any of our parks or our beaches or our ball fields. Where, I mean, we've had this discussion up here so many times, we never see these food trucks. Where are they allowed to park?
My office doesn't make the rules. The town council set that up.
So
That was a town council decision.
I guess this is why we don't see them, because there's no place for them to park. And there's also, they cannot park anywhere 100 feet in front of any other shop that's similar servicing. So
Okay.
I'm really,
We can always look at that. So this is, right now, we're approving it to the ordinance that we have.
Okay.
We can always revisit that, and if we think it's too strict, because we don't see them, we can always follow the process to do that and bring it back.
So the only other point I want to make is this gentleman, Matthew Lyons, he is seeking 3 permits tonight, and we have a
That is
total of
correct.
16 trucks, so he would have 3 of the 16.
That is correct.
I just wanted to make sure the council was aware of that, because that's a high proportion amount of the valuable licenses to be able to not park anywhere in town.
We also have the opportunity to increase licenses. So, that was also, remember, the last council, Councilor Kopech and Councilor Siciliano and I were on that council, and we upped it up a little bit, but there's no, but that's at the council discretion, so we could always increase that too when we look at the ordinance if we're, there were good comments, Councilor Lawler, because I don't see them
But
either.
I think part of the answer to that is that a lot of them come to special events. And that's why you don't see them very often. You only see them at special events. And so they don't, they're in the beach parking lot when we have that big event in September.
Yeah.
They're in various places
Right.
like that. So I think
Okay,
that's why.
so I actually want to just get back to the motion, which is to approve. So this is kind of, we're getting off topic, we're getting on ordinances, we're getting on location. So I want to focus on just the motion to approve. So we're just, this is an applicant. So it was a motion made by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
I would allow him-
I'm sorry, Ms. Alberto, I don't have my glasses today, so I apologize. Sorry.
And before Catherine gets up, just one thing that I'd like to ask the council to consider, should we limit this person to 1 license? Or, when you're voting, please keep that in mind, that he's talking about taking up a number.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I don't think we should limit any licenses at all. I think we have to give out 100 of them just to see 10 of these trucks up here.
I agree.
Okay, that's
don't
number
see
one.
them,
But number two, we're just giving this guy the license for the pizza, right? Because you can't give him for pizza and gelato, because gelato you can't stop. You have to, I guess, they run along the truck and they say, I want a gelato. And you take the money and then you got to fling it to them, I guess, because you can't really stop. But with the pizza, they can stop for 4 hours. So we're just giving them the pizza license tonight, correct? No. We're not giving them the gelato. It says, the
Pizza and
description's
gelato.
talking about pizza.
And gelato.
If they want, if that's the license they're requesting, that's the one they want.
As a
That's
matter
the
of
one
fact,
I'm
in the
fine
town of
with giving
Narragansett,
them.
they are forbid to stop at an intersection and sell their food. It's in the ordinance.
They have
Okay,
to keep rolling, they throw the
Right,
money at them, they throw the food at you, and
4
that's it.
hours. They can park for 4 hours.
okay, so getting back to the motion of approving, this is a motion to approve the license. So we had already, it was motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next up, we have a motion to approve a mobile food establishment license application for Cluck Truck LLC, doing business as Cluck Truck, subject to state and local regulations.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion from the council? I know you're.
Ditto to everything else I
Okay,
already
ditto.
said.
Jill's dittoing the last comments. Any other comments from the council? Anyone from the public? Okay. All in favor? Aye. All
Aye.
opposed?
I'm just going to abstain.
Oh,
I'm just
okay, sorry.
one
Okay,
from-
we have a 4-1. Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. Next, we have a motion to approve a mobile food establishment license application for Wiener Wagon LLC, doing business as Wiener Wagon, subject to state and local regulations.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Abstain.
opposed? Okay. Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. Next, we have a motion to approve a mobile food establishment license application for Dells of South County LLC, doing business as Dells Lemonade, subject to state and local regulations.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public?
So this is for the cart. Janet, is this the cart at the town beach, or is this cart going to be elsewhere in town?
Elsewhere in town.
Elsewhere.
Yeah, this is the mobile.
This is a truck.
This is the mobile food, so it's not the concession.
Anything in
I think it said
the,
cart.
anything in the beach, anything at the beach is a contract through Parks and Rec.
Where did I read that?
Okay, so any discussion anymore? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion by Counselor Lawler, second by Counselor Kopek. Motion passes 4-0. Next up is a motion to approve a mobile food establishment license application for Narragansett Crab Company, LLC, doing business as Narragansett Crab Company, subject to state and local regulations.
So moved.
Oh, aye.
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Did you say aye? Okay, aye. Okay. So motion by Counselor Lawler, seconded by Counselor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next up is a motion to appoint Brian Grieve as the Conservation Commission representative to the Coastal Access Improvement Committee.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? It's just anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Counselor Lawler, seconded by Counselor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next up, we have a motion to appoint 4 individuals to the Towers Committee for a 3-year term to expire on October 1st, 2025, and 1 representative from Friends of the Towers to a term to expire on August 1st, 2024.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? So just to kind of briefly go over this, just so it's simple. We do have term limits. The individuals requesting reappointment have termed out for following our our referendum, which limits terms to two terms served. So that we also have 6 applicants on file. However, 2 of those are already serving on another board or committee. So the current applicants on file that would be eligible for this appointment, there's 4 of them. There's Gina Ankner, Kelly Cartwright, Gwen LaRiviere, and Mary Phillips. And again, there's a vacant seat for the Friends of the Towers representative. And it's actually a recommendation has been made by the Towers to recommend David Ousterhout as their representative. Currently, he serves as chair. So there would be overlap, and there'd be consistency with at least having somebody from that committee staying on and being part of that. Any nominations, or just kind of accept it all?
I accept it as you had outlined, those 4 individuals, and also the vacant seat to be filled by David.
Any other nominations? Does anyone have any discussion?
The only, this is a little bit off topic, but I think one of the things that we need to take a look at, and maybe this has to be a separate motion, is how the Towers is managed. We really don't have town management oversight, and I think that we need to talk about that.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Sure,
I
that's
have no
another agenda
objections.
item. Yeah, but thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so so I had a motion by Councilor Lawler and second. Who was the second? I'm sorry, last for the slate that was discussed. Okay, Councilor Kopek. Any discussion from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. Okay. Last up on the agenda is a motion to appoint 2 individuals to the Narragansett South Kingstown Senior Advisory Committee for a 3-year term to expire on January 17th, 2026.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, so just to summarize this for everyone, there's an individual requesting reappointment, termed out, has served already 2 terms. There are 2 applicants on file for these seats. One is Ann Koch, and the other one is Donna Vignali. So those are the 2. We could either appoint them, appoint one, appoint none, but those are the applicants. Does somebody want to nominate a candidate or?
I would nominate both of them.
Okay, so
If I have one question, I know she's, I guess this woman is termed out. She is requesting a reappointment? We haven't met in I believe, 2 years.
It's
this
still an
committee.
appointment. It doesn't matter if you met or not. So
What's
it's a
that?
term, it's a term, yeah.
Still a term, yeah.
It's still considered a term.
But they didn't even meet during COVID. They couldn't meet during COVID.
They
And she is requesting. So
could have,
I'm
they
just-
could have virtually. So the other committees met virtually. So, yeah, so it's, okay. So we have 2 applicants. So Counselor Kopic
And I've
nominated-
actually spoken to both of them, so I think we've mentioned Donna before. Donna Vignali is a really wonderful volunteer for a whole host of different things, but I think she would be excellent in this, and she has a lot of experience here. Ann Koch is somebody who has taken advantage of the available activities that have been provided to seniors, both in Narragansett, South Kingstown, and even Charlestown.
Yeah.
So I think they'd be fine.
And Ms. Koch did speak at the last meeting. She did she submitted all her signatures for, they're very passionate about being at the community center there. So I also think Ms. Vignali is a great fit for this committee. I always say I look at skill sets and background, and I think she would be really great to serve on this committee. So, okay, does anyone want to discuss anything? Let's do yours, all right. Ms. Ciliberto, we'll go to public first. Yeah.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I really don't see the point of this committee. I think Narragansett needs its own committee. We need our own senior advocate. I don't believe in sharing services because it always comes down to sharing money. $101,000 of our money went to South Kingston. We could have used that money to provide all the services that our seniors go to the South Kingston Center for. We don't need a 39-question survey. Nobody's even going to go through it. That's ridiculous. What you need to do is, as that other individual said, reach out to the people who are 65 and above in this town, and also reach out to the seniors who buy a pass. You have to buy a pass to go to the South Kingston Senior Center if you're a Narragansett resident. Reach out to those people and ask them why they go there. I can't see why we can't provide the services right here in town. There's no reason why our seniors have to truck over to South Kingston. And again, I don't want to give them our money. This is baloney. Pour it into our senior center, and we can have what we need there for our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments from the public? Okay, with that, none. So this motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopic to appoint Ms. Vignali and Ms. Koch to the Narragansett South Kingstown Senior Advisory Committee for a 3-year term to expire on January 17th, 2026. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopic. Motion passes 5-0. So now we are done with our agenda. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion to adjourn by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopic. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone.